Okay, so second of the actual instructional parts of the drug training series, and today we're going to talk about triceps. Now this is in replacement of the video I did where there was no sound, so I apologise for that, and as no doubt you'll hear, Buster is going to accompany us with a few snores. So there you go. So, following on, we discussed last time about how the bicep made up less than a third of the muscle mass of the arm, the upper arm, and that it was two heads. We're now going to discuss the triceps, and as the name would indicate, there are three heads. The vast bulk of the muscle mass is on the inner head. These attach up underneath the arm towards the shoulder and obviously around the elbow, and their role is the extension of the forearm like such. So effectively, when you're looking at anything to directly stimulate the triceps, you're looking at something that causes you to perform that movement. There are a few subtle differences though. Unlike biceps, where even a compound movement like barbell curl is effectively its primary movement and nothing else, triceps, compound movements are things like close grip benching, wide grip reverse bench, and these do involve a lot of secondary muscle groups, predominantly chest and front delt. So the ability to overload is far greater because you can use far more weight in these movements. Isolation wise, the movement is pretty much the same. What I would say in review to using compounds for triceps, if you're not feeling it, slow it down. If you're still not feeling it, don't use it. You know, there's no hard and fast rule that you must use this exercise for this body part. I have very rarely done close grip benching. I've very rarely done any of the big compound mass builders for triceps, and pretty much all my tricep size has come from French press, skull crushers, whatever you want to call them, and push down movements. Now, in that, rotation of the wrists, so reverse, supinated and overhand, will affect the focus of the load on the three heads, as will width of grip. So narrower you go, you're going to hit more the outer head, neutral or wider, you're going to hit more the inner head, which is why the nature of actually a close grip bench, even though your hands are close together, the angle in relationship to your tricep is that of a wider movement. Anyway, a couple of little tips. This is just a hook. This just connects you to the bar. So bear that in mind. The more you grip, the stronger you grip, the more you recruit your forearm into the movement. If you tilt your elbows forward, your wrist forward should I say, on a push down movement, you will effectively shorten the lever. It will enable you to move more load, but it will reduce the direct stress on the tricep. I prefer to try and keep it in a neutral position, maximising the length of this lever, therefore maximising the load on the tricep. And the other big mistake that people make with push downs is they lean in. You lean in, your body weight will come into play, and you'll reduce, again, the effective load on the tricep. So keep upright, chest up, head in a neutral position, and keep your weight on your heels. That will prevent you from leaning forward into the movement as much, and therefore keep the stress actually on the tricep heads. Again, even though it is 2/3 of upper arm mass, it's still not a large volume of muscle mass. And we've also got to remember that it gets indirectly hit in shoulder work and in chest work. Well, effectively any pressing movement we do, so an overhead press or a chest press or anything of that nature, is going to recruit the triceps as a secondary stabilizing muscle. The other thing to bear in mind is that it gets stretched when we perform pull down movements. You'll all realise that if you've done triceps a couple of days before you do back, when you start doing chins or pull downs, you feel it in your triceps, because this part of the motion will stretch the tricep heads. That also comes into play when you do something like French press. The more your arm is elevated, the more your tricep starts in a stretched position. So I would stick to either, well, I'd really stick to neutral. If you go incline, Though your tricep head will start in more of a stretched position, the actual range of movement is shortened. If you go decline, the range of movement is increased, but there is no initial stretch on the tricep at the start position. With both these movements, the big thing is that when you're at the top of the movement, there's no load whatsoever. Load will transfer directly down your arm and into your skeletal frame. There is no tension. So you can either change this by doing these using a cable motion, which will create constant tension. You can recruit a contraction at the top of the movement, or you can just not bother at all. But just bear in mind that at the top of that movement there is no tension, so the tricep will not be on load throughout the full range, unlike the bicep where even at the top of the motion there is still tension and load. Obviously this isn't as much of an issue with cable pushdowns, but again, if you get right over the bar, you will take the tension at the end of contraction because the load will then transfer directly up. A big issue a lot of people suffer with is elbow pain, especially when we do movements like skull crushers or French press, however you like to term that exercise. That is because the load centers around that pivot point of the elbow. I would look to more use these in strict form. Try not to let the elbows flare out. Try and keep them tucked in and keep the movement clean like that. That will reduce the weight that you're capable of using, but it will increase the load on the actual muscle, therefore saving the elbow to some degree. You know, like I've said in the past, and I'll probably say in every one of these videos, there is no must-do exercise. It's all about where you feel the movement and your ability to get that load focused on the muscle you're trying to work, in this case our triceps. So if you're not feeling close grip bench, by all means, slow the movement down, focus, maybe even pre-exhaust, and try and get to the point where you do feel it. But if you battle with this and you're just not getting there, don't do it. Like I said, I've never really used it, and the one thing I can't deny that I've had is large triceps. In different grip ranges will vary stimulus massively. Reverse grip, like say hammer or overhand, will all change how it's perceived on the triceps. Now, regards volume of work, I generally stick to the 8 to 10 region on triceps, a little bit more than I do on biceps, which is 6 to 8, but not a great deal more. It is also an exercise that I find on the medium weight. It is one of them. It's a bit like legs in the sense that you can usually keep grinding reps out, and generally you fail due to pain and actually giving up. An actual muscular failure in the mid-weight ranges. Obviously, like anything heavyweight, you fail when you fail, and don't be scared to go heavy. These things can handle quite a bit of weight, and I would say they're probably a lot less vulnerable structurally wise than biceps are, particularly in a push down movement. You can also incorporate stuff like dips, my apologies. Obviously remember though, with dips, the more further forward you lean, the more you recruit the pec, the further more you lay back, the more you recruit your triceps. Machine dips is a particular favourite of mine. I find I really do hit my triceps hard and heavy on machine dips. It's something that I really do like doing, but unfortunately a lot of gyms just don't have that piece of kit. That's it really. It's definitely a muscle part that doesn't actually suffer as much from overtraining as bicep does, because it's not as showy. But if you want a big pair of arms, you're going to have to put some big triceps on there. They take quite a lot of work. Tension in elbow joints and tendonitis and such can quite often be relieved by massage and releasing tension from the tricep heads. You'll find this a lot. There are a lot of injuries will be avoided with stretching or deep tissue work that will take tension out of the muscle and therefore reduce tension on the attachment points. And that is it. It's a body part that I don't see a great deal of real mistraining with. The biggest issue I see with triceps is the leaning over on push downs. That seems to be the biggest problem most people face with triceps and working them ineffectively. However, the next video will be delts, and that's where I see a lot of people screwing up. So we'll get some more time on that one. I thank you for your time, and I'll now get this uploaded so it replaces the video that had no sound.